Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, let's talk about decoding avoidant texting behavior. First, let's actually talk about what we're talking about today, which is decoding avoidant texting behavior. It is not a one-size-fits-all. And please remember, everything I say, everything in general, please take it with a grain of salt. Remember that I am a lifelong learner and I'm not perfect and I'm never going to be perfect and I'm always going to need to learn more. And so I'm wrong about some things and I want you guys to remember that. Everything I say is not going to fit. And sometimes I might have to go back and say, you know what? I was wrong about that. Here's a new information I learned. And so please keep that in mind. I am a therapist. I see my job is therapy, and then I'm also doing my doctorate. So I'm learning a lot. And there are definitely times where I learned something in school that once I was practicing and learning more, I realized that can be adjusted. There's a better version of it. Or I did something in my internship and then later I realized, oh, this is a better version. Or I did something that was not the best option for that particular case. And that's why that's why you take so many years to do this stuff, right? As an intern, it's like 2.5 years. Residency is like more than that, than postdoc. I mean, there's so much, but that's why, right? Because we're not perfect. And the first one I do want to touch on, which I feel like a lot of you guys already know, is they don't always respond in great detail, okay? Many avoidants use texting as a functional tool rather than purely or predominantly emotional connection. And so it doesn't mean that your partner doesn't like you because they are texting you very infrequent or like very detached, especially if like in person they're still very open, they're very romantic, they're very loving. They just see texting as a functional tool. And I think that's very important. The next one is that sometimes they take their time to reply. I know you guys don't like this one, but I think if I didn't put it in there, I think that you guys would not appreciate that because I would be dishonest to some extent, okay? They take their time because of a couple reasons, and we're going to talk about it. Many avoidants genuinely get very absorbed in work, hobbies, or just disconnected from their phone. And sometimes they don't feel the same urgency around constant replies that other attachment styles may feel. And I think this is very, very important because they're not ignoring you. And I don't want you to feel like you're being ignored because that's not fair. Now, I want to also clarify they should adjust this because it's also not fair for you. You need to meet in the middle. And I think that's very important, right? I think meeting in the middle is one of the most fundamentals to relationships. And at this point, we're going to transition slightly and then we're going to go back to the main point. But if you don't want to hear this part, you can skip. But if you just want like 1 or 2 questions about your relationship and you want more streamlined, adjusted type of consulting, you can book a call with me regarding consulting or couples consulting. However, consulting, it doesn't matter where you are. So I hope that makes sense. That information will be pinned in the comments. Otherwise, like you'll see it eventually. It'll be pinned in the comments. So the next one is avoidants tend to show interest. How do I explain it? They show more investment in actions is a better way to put it, rather than text conversations. And so usually how they appear in person is a strong indicator of how they feel about you more than how they text. And this is an interesting point, a sub point. This is why some avoidants actually avoid seeing you in person because they know that the vulnerability of how they feel and who they truly are shows up in person. It's harder. And so this still needs to be resolved. They do need to see you in person eventually, because it's not healthy for the relationship to progress. And I think you guys know that, right? You want to see your partner in person. And I think they also want to see you in person, but they're avoiding it because they're so afraid of that vulnerability. Excuse me. And so you want to start at one point creating a sense of having a typical healthy relationship from your perspective. And usually with an anxious person, they want much more consistency than the avoidant is comfortable sharing. However, from a secure standpoint, which is what I meant by typical, there needs to be some consistency. And usually that consistency does not have to be every single day, but like once a week, once every, like 2 times a week or whatever it is, depending on how close you guys are. Because I know some of you guys are like long distance. So maybe like for that, once a month, it depends. You need to see each other often or at least get to that point. And if you guys live together and you guys text when you guys are at work or doing something and they don't respond and they only respond when you come home, that is a conversation that you need to have separately because it's very frustrating. I have some couples where, like, let's say the wife is anxious and the husband is avoidant. Let's just say that. And let's say wife is a stay at home. She might text him, can you go get butter when you come back home? I don't have time. You know, maybe their child has a fever or something like that. So she really needs to, she can't like hand it off to her, let's say her mother, the kid's grandmother, whatever it is, or bring the child out. Like, it's not feasible. So she's asking him and he doesn't say anything. And then he comes home and says, oh yeah, I saw your text message, but I just wanted to tell you that, like, I'm too tired. I'm too busy. I'll get it later. I'll get it like before bed, whatever it is. I'll go out before. And like, he could have just said that, but he waited until he got home to tell her that. And for her, for like the hours that she was waiting, she was confused. Like, am I going to cook this? Do I need to do this? And that is really frustrating. And so this still needs to be resolved. Even if you guys are seeing each other in person, eventually they need to show more interest or communication through text as well, because it is an important medium that needs to be used. The next one is they don't use many emojis. This doesn't mean they don't care. And this was something that, like, I didn't realize was something until, like, some people pointed out. Like, I'm not a person who uses much of them. I use a skull emoji, maybe because that's just what, like, I grew up with. Like, that was just a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's not used anymore. But, like, if it's like, oh, like, I don't know. Let's say you're like that. Like, let's say you're out with your friends and, like, you want to text another friend, like, about a dress. So you take a picture and you're like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. This dress is ugly. Let's just say. And you put, like, a skull emoji. Like, I've always done that. Or I use a thumbs up a lot. Like, you guys know that because I use it with you guys. Like, I use thumbs up and the skull emoji, but mainly thumbs up. That's like my thing. Sometimes I answer with just the thumbs up emoji, but typically I'm not going to use like a lot of hearts or like smiley face or whatever. That's something that I've always just been like. And my significant other rarely uses emojis, like, ever. Like, the only time is a smiley face emoji when he like is usually when he's like trying to make me happy, or like he's trying to show that he's happy, he'll use that one. But that's like it. Apparently, this is something that is common because, interesting enough, in couples therapy, some folks bring up like, he's never like communicating with me, or I feel like she's not interested because her texts seem very dry. But I just want you guys to know, it doesn't mean they don't care. Some avoidants just don't think about it, or some actually might think it's immature, which is odd. I don't think that way, but some folks do. And interesting is fearful avoidants are not always like this. Some fearful avoidants actually use a lot of emojis to avoid a vulnerability. So they might just use emojis and not use much texting. I've seen that with fearful avoidants, just something to keep in mind. And the last one is actually many might not initiate over text, but are more initiative in person. And so the reason why is because a lot of avoidants think that texting can have a lot of miscommunication, and it seems like a high opportunity for conflict, so they may avoid it. So we were just talking about that butter example. Maybe the husband that we were talking about, this made up example, he didn't want to say, I'll get the butter later, because maybe he thought his wife would get mad. And so he's like, I can't read her mind, or I can't read her facial expression. So I'm just going to tell her when I get home. But it comes across very rude to her and confusing. And so I do want you guys to know that some of this, like a lot of this does need to be readjusted depending on what kind of texter you are. Because some of you guys are older, and so texting is not that big of a deal to you. But in my age group and the age group that's coming up, like, texting is like so common that like some people, like, when I would never even do like phone calls. Now I'm comfortable with phone calls, but my significant other was like a phone call type of guy. And like, I remember he's always like, we don't need to talk about this on text, just call me. And I was like, call you? Like, what? So it depends. Everyone's different, but let's go ahead and summarize. So they don't respond in great detail. They can sometimes take their time to reply. They tend to show interest in actions in comparison to text conversations. So they may seem very disinterested in text, but they may be very interested acting in person. They don't use many emojis. Fearful avoidants might not always be like that. And they don't initiate over text, but they are more initiative in person. So I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.